Hello everyone, I am the White Angel and I am the conservative. Yes, I am so frightening to the leftists. The leftists fear me, for I speak truth to power. So, today we're going to talk about dangerous leftist pseudosciences. Isn't pseudo a funny word? Because it actually starts with a P, so it's pseudo. So we're going to talk about dangerous leftist pseudosciences. Now what's interesting about the current one that everyone's freaking out about, because I remember years ago it was fucking intersectionality this, intersectionality that. Now we're going on about CRT, or critical race theory, which is an offshoot of Marxist critical theory, which is very, very cleverly named because people associate with critical thought, but it's not related. Critical theory is designed by Karl Marx to take anything in society and break it down, break the idea down into its base components, so claimed, and then use that as a detailed criticism to destroy that institutional convention. But the problem is with critical theory is that a lot of the time, these supposed breakdowns of societal norms will oftentimes involve an insertion of ideas that were not actually present prior to the supposed breakdown. It's like what these so-called fact-checkers do. They'll insert an idea and then focus on that idea that wasn't present until they put it there, and then sort of a straw man argument, and break that down, and then act like that was what debunked it, when really you just debunked yourself when you inserted a new idea that wasn't present before. Critical theory does this all the time. But regardless, what's interesting about CRT, which again, it inserts race into something that race was probably not present, and then makes it appear like racism was involved. That's how they do it. Sorry, my fan was going, so there might be some blaring audio. I turned it off. My little room fan. It's hot in here. But what's interesting about these supposed elements for arguments for CRT and the idea that race is a quote-unquote social construct is that there's not a single argument, and I went looking for articles and arguments, you name it, and I didn't find a single one that addressed the concept of melanin, which is a chemical that is primarily responsible for human skin pigment, and is also the main chemical compound present in octopus ink. When they use their ink defense against a predator, the ink contains melanin. And they found that same chemical in human skin. The level of melanin determines the darkness or lightness of your skin. Low melanin level. So it's interesting to me that CRT arguments for CRT will oftentimes go around the issue of melanin altogether, like they're avoiding it. I would be interested to know what would happen if you got a proponent of CRT and talked to them about melanin. Would they face it directly, or would they go cognitive dissonance mode and hide their eyes and not address it directly? I'm honestly curious. Plus, they want to say that they've never found a genetic factor for race. Guess what? They've also never found a genetic factor for lots of things people believe in. They've never found a gay gene. Seriously. The supposed gay gene has never been isolated. So by the same logic, gayness is a social construct. By the same logic. So there's two big issues I have right there. Is that they may be giving too much credit to genetics, and that they're not addressing melanin. That's big. That's very big. Now, here's why I think race might actually be more about evolution than about genetics, or anything else in particular. It might be evolution. The reason for this being, what we typically think of races, it's more than just skin color. It's eye fold, nose shape, relative nose shape, because there's quite a bit of diversity within that realm, skull shape, etc. Now, in let's say the African plains, right? It gets really hot in the African plains. They do triple digit in summer. Easy, right? The reason why you have dark skin and higher melanin is to protect you from the ultraviolet rays of the sun, because those can harm you as much as they help you. So that dark skin and your dark brown eyes are protecting you. They're making sure that the light levels are at a healthy range for you, so that it doesn't hurt you. But imagine a white person in that kind of environment where it's triple digit heat and it's really light outside. Alright? Like, your skin is going to burn. Your rate of skin cancer is going to increase dramatically. Your body's producing insane amounts of vitamin C, more than you need. Right? This environment is hostile to people with white skin. It's very hostile. But for people with dark skin or brown skin, they're in the clear, because their skin's protecting them. My skin ain't protecting me from shit. You know? So it seems likely to me that skin color and many of these other things are just something human beings developed so they could survive in multiple environments at once. Warm climate, dark skin. Tropical climate, medium skin. Temperate to colder climate, light skin. And all the other anatomical differences that go with. Blue eyes, so you can see better in dim light. And somewhat larger eyes, so you can see better in dim light. Because Europeans, white people, they do have slightly larger eyes. And we do have pretty decent night vision. We can see pretty well in the dark. Although most people are still afraid to go in the dark. You know, it's an inborn natural human fear. It's like, I can't go in the dark. There's scary predators waiting in the bushes for me. There's lions and tigers and bears, oh my. You know, because you're afraid to go in the dark. But enough about the dark. So yeah, that's probably why it's probably evolution. Just evolving and adapting to multiple different climates at once. You get a longer, skinnier nose, so you can breathe in the cold air, and your body has time to heat up the air, so it's at the right temperature for your lungs. If you breathe in cold air, you can form ice crystals in the lungs, which is extremely bad for you. I mean, need I go on? Why do you think you see people in Scandinavia who are so much lighter than some other white people? They're very light. So are the Irish. Many Irish people are like milk bottle or ghost white. Because it can get fucking cold in those places, dude. It can get hella cold. Wear a nice thick jacket. But, that's why it's probably evolution, and that's why those anatomical differences are a thing. Same species, but different variations as they cover the various parts of the land. I would be interested to see a CRT proponent address that. I would also like them to see them address melanin and the issue of why there's no genetic factor for gayness, so their logic should be arguing that gay people don't exist either. Just like they think race doesn't exist, or that it's a social construct. So by their logic, gayness should also be a social construct, because there's no genetic factor there. Why don't they apply the same logic all across the board and be completely consistent? I would be interested to know. Now, just to address intersectionality, because it's still an issue, don't forget, it has many anomalies as well. And intersectionality is the belief that you have multiple identities based upon supposed marginalized groups, and the number of identities you have increases your degree of oppression. Your supposed oppression by the majority, which they identify as white, straight, male. Those are the three identities which are supposedly oppressor versus oppressed, which is straight up Marxism. And Marxism is bad because Marxism, it promotes systems like socialism and communism, which have literally killed and starved millions to death. You know, read some history, get with the times. Marxism is bad, always has been, always will be. And it's hilarious to me that they want to push Marx when Marx wasn't a fucking economist. And that he called economics himself, he called it the dismal science. He didn't believe in it, and he thought he could criticize it using outside tools. Yeah, you want to criticize something you have no understanding of. Great job, buddy. But I digress. The problem with intersectionality is that it doesn't take in individual situations into account. Not only that, it places a homeless veteran as oppressor, even though he's a homeless veteran probably with PTSD, simply because he's straight white male. How is he oppressing anyone? He's a homeless veteran. And for that matter, how does a famous black person who makes millions a year, like, say, Will Smith, who has a gigantic net worth, how is he in any way oppressed? Seriously. Will Smith is not oppressed. Neither is Barack Obama or Morgan Freeman or any of these famous black people, like maybe Larry Elder. How are they oppressed in any way? If anything, they're oppressing me by your logic because they make more money than I probably ever will. Or they're oppressing that homeless white veteran. You see, being mad at people for having more than you or being better off than you in general, that's called envy. You like to claim that the capitalists are envious and greedy. Bitch, I say you're envious and greedy, and you're just projecting yourself onto me. How is socialism not greed when half of its platform is free stuff for everybody? How's that not greed? Explain that shit to me. How's that not greed? How are black people oppressed when you can literally have a burgeoning middle class and rich people in that demographic who are clearly not being held down by anybody? How is that oppression? That doesn't fucking work. So you gotta ask yourself, how are ideas like intersectionality and CRT, which are so deeply flawed, how are these ideas believed in and promoted? How does that even remotely happen? That's the interesting thing. I don't know how these ideas get promoted or become so popular. I can only say this. The people who believe in it are either fakers who are grifting on it, or if they genuinely believe in it, that's because they don't have an ear to the ground and they don't know what the real world is like. They're the dweller of an echo chamber that go to that echo chamber regularly to hear their already predetermined beliefs echoed back to them. They've never been criticized. They don't know a talking point contrary to their belief. They're out of touch. These are probably wealthy liberal elites that create and push these ideas onto naive college students who are out of touch with community. They probably live in gated communities themselves because college isn't cheap. They're liable to be upper middle class or possibly wealthy themselves. And any poor working class people who believe in these things are probably just shut-ins. That's what I would imagine. Because anyone who's in touch with the real world knows that it's ridiculous to think that someone like Barack Hussein Obama is oppressed, while a homeless white person is somehow his oppressor just because he's white. He was literally the president of the United States, and this dude is a homeless addict, probably sick on drugs and alcohol. Explain that shit to me. It doesn't fucking work with objective reality, and neither does CRT. Why aren't you addressing melanin? Why aren't you addressing the possibility of evolution? Why are you not addressing the fact that you believe in homosexuality even though it doesn't have a genetic factor? And yet your argument for race being a social construct is there's no genetic factor for race. You're not internally consistent, bruh. You're not even remotely. So yeah, these are dangerous leftist pseudosciences. And they should be explained and debunked as often as possible. And whenever they start popping up at your job, in the government, wherever, debunk it and get rid of it with every fiber of your being. It is fucking dangerous. And it is warping people's perception of reality. Anyway, there will be a link below to my books. Please buy, download, and read them. Thank you, and choose. Peace.